You're listening to the Optimal Performance Podcast.
How's it going, everyone? It's Chris from Optimal Performance. This is episode 6, and in today's episode we're going to be going through running performance, common injuries and niggles, and basically how to become a better runner. So we're obviously coming into sort of event season now, in terms of half, full marathons, some trail style stuff that comes up through the summer. So we're basically going to dive into a little bit of information in terms of how you can become better. Not just as a runner, but just as an overall performer, in terms of what to do to apply into the gym, with that crossover between strength training and how to actually program for strength training alongside conditioning specific running. So yeah, we're going to dive into the episode there, and we're basically going to start with some upcoming events the lads have actually got booked. We've got the Liverpool half marathon coming on Sunday. Matty's obviously pulled out because he's bottled it. Nathan's still doing it. Nathan's desperate to beat me. He's bought all the top end shoes and that. So we're going to dive into our preparation for the Liverpool half, what we've been doing.
Or lack of,
from Matty's perspective, yeah.
Croissants are a great preparation tool.
Yeah, it's elite pre-workout.
Yeah, if you're going to pull out, croissants are definitely the best tool to use.
Yeah, so yeah, let's touch over to Scuppers and see how his prep's gone, what his programming's been like. He's a big advocate of the hybrid style programming, which we are all running in the background. So let's touch into that to start.
Yeah. No, I keep it nice and simple. Run 4 or 5 times a week. Strength training 3 to 4 times a week on top of that. Usually if I'm like coming up towards a race, I'll knock the strength training down to twice a week, and I'll try and get as much out of them sessions as I can. But the main focus, obviously, for the race, if I'm looking for a certain time, is obviously running. So I aim for at least, and I've had this conversation with Matty before, 120 minutes a week at least at zone 2. So I think everyone should aim for that, no matter if you want to race or you just want to be healthy. And you can do that by just having 4 30-minute runs a week. It's as easy as that. Doesn't really matter. If you're the type of person who wants to race and you know, like, for instance, a 10k is going to take you 60 minutes, then it's probably worthwhile your zone 2 minutes being a bit longer, because you've only been on your feet for a bit longer. So I achieved it by just having 2 60-minute runs a week, and then from there I'll do maybe a track session or a tempo session and a long run on a Sunday. So it's nothing too complicated. It's just basic stuff, but it obviously comes with the understanding of energy systems and what strength training I need to do to basic stuff.
Yeah, no, so let's touch into zone 2. It's become, like, obviously massive, bit of a buzzword. You see a lot of people jumping on it. Obviously, when we started the run club last summer, this was, like, obviously a big foundation of it, obviously doing, like, zone 2 specific. Let's actually touch into what, like, you're trying to achieve and what it actually is, so people have a better understanding, because, as I say, it's a big buzzword. I think people just say, I'm doing zone 2, but I don't think people maybe understand fully what it actually is and what you're actually trying to achieve from doing zone 2 specific running.
Yeah, so it's, on the surface, it's quite easy to explain, but it's quite a complex physiological process what we're trying to achieve. But basically, if you've got like a Garmin or what other type of fitness watches there is that gives you, like, you know, you can look at your heart rates and they give you like colours, don't they?
Yeah.
So
the Apple watches do it now.
They do that, yeah. So it's basically the blue zone that we're looking for. People don't realise how easy your zone 2 run's supposed to be. Like, it's a bit of a humbler in the fact that your pace has to slow down, right down. So lots of people, it'll run in the green zone, like on your watch, which, because it's the aerobic zone, but that's actually like what we call a grey zone in running, because it's too fast for zone 2 adaptations and it's too slow for like anaerobic adaptations. So we don't really want to do too much work there, but you should spend some time in that zone, but not too much. But all we're trying to do is we're trying to keep everything super easy. So basically our aerobic system can basically get up to speed with like 100% capacity, and we're just trying to stay there so we can utilise fat. And obviously the longer we stay there, the more adaptations we get over time, and these adaptations can take like 6-8 months. Obviously the more you do, the better it is, basically. So it's just about running easy, and you should be able to talk while you're doing this, and over the course of time you'll gradually be able to run faster, but your heart rate will still be in zone 2, and that's like what we're trying to achieve in the long run, basically.
Yeah, we spoke about it yesterday, like last night on our run, and it was a very slow run, obviously, with the race prep coming up. And you can literally have like a conversation like we're having right now if you're running at the correct pace for your heart rate, and it is a humbler. You don't realise how slow you actually have to go before you're like just comfortable in zone 2. It was definitely was a lot slower than what you'd expect.
Yeah, it's 100% a humbler. Like my zone 2 pace is like sometimes, depending on how fatigued I am, 2.5 to 3 minutes slower than my race pace. So it's super slow, and it can be boring, and a lot of people go out and try and aim for the zone 2 run, but they can't do it because it's a mental battle in itself, and it's a skill in itself to be able to run at such a low heart rate. And if you're not fit enough, chances are you probably won't be able to run at that heart rate. You might have to walk. So if you're starting, you might have to walk it, you might have to run walk it. But yeah, it's a skill in itself, and being able to adopt that and apply it to your training will pay dividends moving forward, especially in a health perspective and a performance perspective.
Yeah, it's important to note that as well, isn't it? That it doesn't have to be a run to put you in zone 2. You can just be a fast-paced walk that you're not used to. That's fine. That's where you're at. That's where your heart rate's at.
It doesn't matter. The modality doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Obviously, if it's for instance, obviously we're trying to race, so it makes more sense for us to run it because that's more transferable into what we're trying to achieve. But if you're just doing it for general health, it doesn't matter whether you walk it, run, cycle, swim, whatever. As long as you're in that heart rate zone and you're getting them 120 minutes a week, you're gonna be fitter and you're gonna be healthier.
But again, if you're not doing anything at the minute, it's fine to do 30 minutes a week, do 40 minutes, build it up.
Well, anything's better than nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
So
but
if you're doing none, then 30 a week better than none, you know what I mean? And just trying to build up. But I always recommend to everyone, try and get at least 120 minutes. And it's easy. It's not a hard 120 minutes. It's super easy. So I think the easiest way to do it is to split it up into 4 30-minute sessions a week. And like I said, it doesn't matter how you achieve that. You could be cycling, running, rowing, whatever you want to do. You could mix it up, have a different session each week or each workout.
Yeah, it's I think running, obviously, like people who don't do it, they have like a little bit of a fear factor, and it can be quite daunting to just go out and go, right, I'm going to start running. But obviously the zone 2 specific stuff is where you would start. I think a lot of people have this notion in their mind that they're going to be running, the heart rate's going to be through the roof, the breathing's going to become erratic. But if you're going from nothing to this, and even if you do 2 30-minute runs a week at true zone 2, you're going to get a big adaptation in terms of building that aerobic base, which then feeds into like the next part of what Nathan said in terms of like, I also do track intervals, so that's obviously going to go towards the top end of heart rate. So let's maybe touch into that. So obviously zone 2 is going to be about building a big aerobic base. Track intervals, let's have a little talk about what that's going to sort of give from an adaptation standpoint and a conditioning / energy system standpoint.
Yeah, so when we obviously move through the gears, you kind of not bypass or skip there's the green zone sort of thing, but track intervals, you've either got like a V02 Max track interval or you'll have like a threshold track interval. So V02 Max, obviously maximal effort, so you're spending seconds up there, like that's like obviously max heart rate sort of thing. But usually on a track interval, you're looking for like repeatability and like the ability to recover quickly between intervals. And all we're looking at is basically when you get to a point called, you'll hear it referred to as threshold. It's basically when lactate starts to be produced more than what it would be at resting values. So that we're exposing ourselves to high levels of lactate, so our body can become used to it and actually buffer the lactate, which is where the body basically gets rid of lactate out of the blood. So we can keep performing at that intensity. So that, again, it's very hard and it's very taxing. So that's why we only do it maybe once a week, or we might only do a certain amount of minutes there a week. But what we're trying to achieve is exposure to that sort of intensity of exercise. So we know what it feels like, and our body has the ability to, like I said, buffer the lactate, which is to get rid of it out of the blood and change it back into energy. Because people mistake lactate as a waste product, but it's actually just energy that can't be used because there's insufficient oxygen. So once oxygen becomes present again, when we recover, that lactate is shuttled back to the liver, where it can be changed back into energy or ATP, or it can go back into the aerobic system where it is oxidized into ATP again. Yeah,
so that buffer and the lactate's key, because obviously that's where people break down. If lactate is coming in at a greater rate than what it can be buffered, that's basically where you will fatigue and have to stop, kind of thing. So like getting that crossover in specific energy system work where you're building an aerobic base, and then going into like the sort of hurt locker stuff with like your track intervals and stuff, it's key, because if you are pushing race pace and you have the ability to shift through the gears and you're running towards a specific time, which we're going to obviously try and target this weekend coming, at some point we're probably going to go into that the threshold sort of exposure, and we want to be able to try and stay there for as long as possible, because if you are pushing a specific pace, unfortunately the half marathon's not going to be done in zone 2, it's going to be done in and around threshold, if not a little touch higher. So we want to be able to buffer that lactate for as long as we can, to make sure that we can maintain a high speed, but obviously still be able to move from A to B in terms of getting across the finish line at that speed. So having that crossover in your energy specific system work, obviously with running, you need to go in and out, or top and bottom of the two ends of the spectrum, to make sure that you can push pace and you can also have that aerobic base. So it's key to kind of understand how to program that in within your schedule if you are working towards becoming a better runner. Obviously, as we touched on, alongside the strength specific sessions, which is a big part of the hybrid style programming that we've been working on, especially with Nathan there, pretty much since what would you say, September, October last year.
Yeah, about 8 months I think we've been going for it now.
Yeah, and it's responding well. I think we're all pulling down on the scales. Our performance is getting better.
I've dropped, I think, 11 kilos since we started, without even trying, just over the course of 8 months, and just getting fitter and stronger.
And just for note, that's not really restricting any.
I've been eating more than ever. Yeah. Like the aim of a hybrid program is performance. It's not really to drop scale weight. Like that just kind of goes hand in hand. That's why I always say to people, athletics builds aesthetics. As cringy as that sounds, it does. That's just how it works.
Yeah, that's it. Basically, you're losing weight because you're becoming more of an athlete, rather than you're losing weight because you're trying to drop weight.
Exactly.
Yeah. Your output's really high, isn't it? So you have the affordability to eat more, which is always a win. Why wouldn't you want to? It comes back to previous podcasts. Like, you would always start by training more, in my opinion, than reducing food. Everybody wants to eat more food, or I would definitely want to eat more food. So I'd rather train more and keep my calories high. I think we're all managing to maintain strength on our main lifts with the style of programming that we're doing, which is like 2/3 weightlifting sessions a week. The energy system work with the running is there in the background, and like the program is basically working. We're all getting better with our times.
Massively.
Maintaining strength, dropping scale weight, looking better. I think I've gone from 92 to 86 kilos at the minute, which is
quite big.
It's a big drop, really. Yeah.
And again, I think it's only the last month or so that any of us have actually said, "Oh, I'm gonna start," like, not tracking calories to be in a deficit, just to see where we're at, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And we're dropping like close to 10 kilos each before we've even thought about scale weight. So
yeah, and then once the race day's done, for me personally, I am gonna go into a small deficit, just with holidays upcoming and stuff, just to have a little bit more into the composition side of things, which is gonna touch into some more programming that we've got in the background. But yeah, like, that's a little brief overview of obviously zone specific work for running. Let's touch into basically what we feel as though we need to be a good runner. Obviously we've touched on it there in terms of the actual out and out running. Let's maybe run people through our training structure with the strength side of things, to see like what we actually need to have that crossover from strength training into being robust enough to increase miles, increase distance and speed without blowing up, kind of thing, in terms of injuries, which obviously touches into the programming again. Yeah, so let's maybe touch on that.
Yeah, so I think it comes down to frequency and volume. We know from the science that you can massively reduce your volume and you can still achieve adaptations. You can still maintain strength and muscle mass. But I think the main thing is exercise selection or exercise variation. It's just changing them up slightly. So, for instance, we do a lot of box squatting instead of just normal barbell squatting, and all that is doing is just reducing the range of motion, and we're reducing like eccentric loading, so we're reducing fatigue basically. But the emphasis is more on force production, because we want to be powerful, especially around the hips and the glutes, because that's where we're going to. Obviously, the faster you run, the more power you need to produce, and if we're strong and we're more robust, we're less likely to pick up injuries, and we can keep producing force over a continually. What's the word? Lost me.
Yeah, like a repeated exposure of time.
Yeah.
Like to be able to keep doing it. Yeah, like repeatability.
Repeatability, basically. Yeah. And then we've got to think about things that other exercise that cause lots of fatigue, so like deadlifts, RDLs. We still need that eccentric load of the hamstrings. That's massively important for runners. That's where you'll see most runners pick up injuries, because the weak and the eccentric phase of it, eccentric contraction of the hamstring. I think some recent papers have come out around running, and they've basically found that it's more the middle and the distal part of your hamstring that takes the most load when running. So it's obviously very important that we to train in that lengthened position, so we can swap out something like an RDL or a deadlift and do something like a bodyweight Nordic. So we're still obviously lengthening the hamstrings under load, but without the fatigue of actually like holding on to 120, 150 kilos. And like I said, it's mainly down to exercise selection, exercise variation. So we just need to adapt things slightly, and we need to think about not risk to reward, but more like benefit to fatigue. Because obviously certain exercises are going to cause us massive amounts of fatigue. So the way I've programmed it is lower bodies or like athletics. So we're doing lots of hops, skips, jumps, moving things fast, moving things heavy. And then upper bodies pretty much stayed just generic. We still do a bit of like contrast training upper body, like ballistic style stuff, but you can train more like a bodybuilder upper body and it doesn't really affect yourself too much.
Yeah. A little bit more pump style work, and then as you said at the start, in terms of like giving yourself like the scope to maybe say, right, I'm going to lift 3 times this week, but if you do have that fatigue building up, you can pull one out, or you can sacrifice an upper body pump and obviously prioritise lower body specific, or maybe pull a lower body out and go for an upper body pump if the legs are feeling a little bit beat up. And then across that weekly schedule, then from a programming perspective, you need to basically program the most fatiguing sessions closer to your zone 2 specific work, because that's easier. And then when you have that track specific day, you want to be able to perform on that day, don't you, to get that adaptation in terms of buffer and lactate and getting into the threshold specific work. So how you structure your week and your month really matters, and then you need to be able to have adaptability within that schedule, which is as we use on the app, it's perfect for it. You're able to alternate days, and it works really well. As we said there, the performance benefits and even composition benefits that we've had since running it from like last summer kind of thing, or late last summer, has been nice, and hopefully it pays dividends on the weekend, and then we can get some more events scheduled in from there, and obviously use it as part of our yearly sort of training calendar. Yeah,
we pretty much are like a product of it. Like we've been running it for ourselves, obviously, to trial it out, make sure that it's iron out all the problems, but I think it's quite interesting for people to hear how much planning, how much like actual attention there is into these programs to make them optimal for running or whatever your discipline will be. So if you do want to go into these sort of programs, that all of what we've just been talking about goes into it.
Yeah.
So that's time. It's a lot of effort, and it's a lot of science and
there is
research that goes into
like,
it.
as you know, I take like quite a scientific approach to all my programming, and try and obviously get the things best advice or best practice at the time, best bang for your buck sort of thing. So it comes to understanding certain manipulations such as cluster sets, why and where, what exercise you might use a cluster set, why use a cluster set, where you're going to use it, things like that. But that's all been thought out by those guys and put into the program. Yeah,
and the what I would like to say on the program specific side, so like the hybrid style stuff that we have been programming, is that it is massively adaptable. So it doesn't mean that the program is just designed at making you a better runner. It's designed to give you true structure, so you have crossover. So like if you're a BJJ athlete, if you play football, like it would have crossover because you get an energy system specific exposure. And you're getting strength training specific exposure within that structure, which is massive, with the adaptability, as we say. So it's, even though it's designed at making the running side of things get better and the strength training side getting better, you will have crossover in terms of like, it's not just if you want to be a better runner, jump on this program. It's about making it people better athletes, all in, as Nathan's saying, like with his taglines of, what is it?
Athletics build aesthetics.
Yeah, so
yeah,
it does though. Yeah.
Yeah, but just touching on like other athletes and stuff, most athletes don't spend any time in zone 2. They kind of, it's all like if you think about a footballer, they're probably around that aerobic zone, like zone 3, and then they're dropping in and out of the zone 3 and the threshold into maybe the red because they're, you know, short interval sprints and they're constantly moving around. So like that's quite neglected in like sports in terms of like building the aerobic base. Obviously these athletes are super fit anyway, but you could be even fitter and you could recover better. Like you might be, if you do spend time at zone 2 and as a footballer, say you're going for a sprint and then you track back and then it's your time to recover, the likelihood is your heart rate's going to drop further than someone who isn't doing the zone 2 work. So in that sort of sense, you're going to recover better and you can achieve higher intensities throughout the game. So it's quite neglected in terms of sport, and I think that's becoming more recognised now. So a lot more coaches you'll see online and stuff are starting to implement more of that into athletes' programs, whether that's, doesn't matter what sport it is, it's just in general.
Yeah, I think it's hard, isn't it? Because we spoke about it last night. It's hard to do a session like that and not get the feeling like, oh yeah, I'm knackered here. I've done a lot. Because you've got to take a step back and go, right, I'm not trying to exhaust myself on this training session, which is everyone wants to feel like they've done something on a training session.
Yeah, people are intensity junkies, aren't they, the way things are now, and it's like, I touching on the sport specific, I've felt loads of footballers, boxers, BJJ athletes, karate, blah blah blah. Everybody wants to get into that red zone, like, so all the conditioning's around red zone. A few clients I'm helping now have actually been talking about this the week just gone on check-ins and stuff, where like people do, as you've just said, people find it difficult to do something from a training perspective, where you might walk out and go, I'm not even sweating really, for that like regeneration, as Nathan's saying. If you skip that aerobic base, what people don't understand is if you spend more time there, it's going to cost you less energy to get into the red zone. And then when you are in the red zone, you're going to recover a lot quicker. And sport now is about repeated high intensity actions. Like, all the data from a football perspective is like that. So like the teams who complete the most high intensity sprints and the teams who complete the most high intensity runs and cover the most distance are usually the best teams on the planet. Boxers, can you go in and out of them bursts in terms of red zone and recover quick in between rounds? The same with UFC athletes and any combat sport. People are missing that big aerobic base, and it can be boring. What I do personally, like if I do a session of it like off feet, so like on the bike here, I got home, I'll just put like a YouTube vlog on or a podcast on the dock and just mosey, and it can be a little bit boring, but like the benefit of it is massive. And then, as we've said, when you are shifting through the gears and you are pushing pace, it costs a lot less energy to shift through them gears because you have got a big pool and a big aerobic base. So like, I know from my perspective, like my breathing rate when I go into threshold and the red, I can control my breathing really easy, and it's off the back of doing zone 2 stuff and other bits as well. It's not just zone 2, because as I say, it does get popular and things have phases, but it's low hanging fruit basically is where I'm going with it, to be able to go into that red. People spend probably too much time at red, and as Nathan's saying, if you are an athlete, you're fit, you're already fit, so you're looking for them small percentages, and some of this type of stuff will give people them small percentages in terms of improving performance moving forward. So it's massively important.
That's it. It's like everyone's trying to push the ceiling, like, I want to go higher, I want to get better and all that, but
got to raise the roof before you raise the ceiling.
Yeah,
that's
exactly
where the base building comes in.
So your base, if you reduce your base down, then you've got a lot more space to adapt and to basically become a better athlete. If you just keep trying to get the top end and not focus on the bottom end, you're missing a big chunk of your available adaptations there, aren't you?
Yeah, just without going back or getting too sciencey, basically, people don't realise that zone 2 actually affects like your other zone, your zone 4, your zone 5. And all we're doing is you'll have these little tiny cells in your muscles called mitochondria, and they need oxygen, and once they've got enough oxygen, they'll break down carbohydrates, protein and fats to produce energy. But to maximise production, you need to be at a certain percent of heart rate, around 50 to 60% of V02 max, which usually correlates with your heart rate. So 50 to 60% of your max heart rate, which is zone 2. So if we can spend loads of time there, our body's very clever, and it'll say, oh, we need to get better at this, we need to get better at utilising oxygen, we need to get better at oxidising fat for energy because we're doing this a lot. So you can actually increase the amount of mitochondria in your muscles So if we can increase the amount of mitochondria, we can increase the amount of energy we can produce, so we can utilize more oxygen. Now, how that has a knock-on effect is when we come up to, like Chris was saying before, threshold, red zone, it takes longer to reach them zones because our body's able to use more oxygen. So if we can use more oxygen, we can spend more time at threshold because our body's better at using oxygen. We can buffer more lactate. So if we can buffer more lactate, the pH in our blood staying relatively balanced, so we can continue exercising at intensity. Then when we go up to the red zone, we can spend maybe a few more seconds there longer than we will be able to, but our recoverability will come right back down. And that's for a boxer or a BJJ athlete or any sort of combat athlete. That's massively important because basically as we become fatigued, it becomes harder to recover. And if we're staying at red zone, you see boxers in a fight, they come all sluggish and they just lose power and lose everything. But if you can come back down, you can go back up very quickly as well. So that's what you're looking for, them high intensity efforts. But you can only do that by having that solid base.
Yeah, same with football or any field-based sport as well, where like obviously the ball dictates what happens, and you'll have moments where like the ball's out to play and you might be walking, then you might be reacting and jogging, then you might be sprinting. As Nathan said, the crossover into pretty much any sport-specific situation is there.
And it's relatively cost-free. Like there's pretty much, like we did the run last night. If you get to a certain point where it feels like you've just gone for a walk.
Yeah.
It's just nothing, is it, to you?
It's easy to recover from.
Like, you get home last night, you wake up this morning, there's absolutely no pain, no aching, no nothing. I don't feel like I've been for a run.
Exactly.
I feel like I could.
And that's the way it should be.
Yeah.
And the chronic adaptations you get from running and using your energy system development is just, it's amazing what your body can do. But so just off the back of that, if anyone's actually interested in that sort of stuff, I was thinking about doing like a little like a physiology sort of like a presentation and just doing some basic energy system stuff and breaking it down. So if anyone's interested, then get in touch and let us know, and I'll do it if people are like generally interested in finding out more, because I'm like, you guys know I'm really interested in that sort of stuff. That's what gets me going, like, so I'll be happy to do something like that.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. So yeah, with you mentioning sort of you didn't feel like you had any niggles or pain there, let's maybe go into that, because obviously, as we said earlier on, like when we go from zero to maybe beginning to introduce running, obviously it's pretty much the highest impact sort of force thing you can do really with the body, apart from sprinting. Like a lot of the common sort of injuries and niggles that we hear from like an increased exposure to running are typically like sort of ankles, hips and knees. Obviously, like from a running performance or like a mechanical perspective, running is a series of single leg landings at mid-range knee bend. So being robust in that position is massive, and this is something I touch on with a lot of clients from like a rehabilitation standpoint, is how well you absorb force from that position, and then how well you produce force from that position is basically going to dictate what area loads up. So in an ideal world, when we're thinking about like landing on one leg and then pushing off it, we need to be able to spread force across that whole chain: hip joint, knee joint, ankle joint. So if people are loading up with common stuff like, my ankles are sore every time I run, or my Achilles is flaming, or my calves are cramping, or something like patella tendonitis, or my glutes are tight, all this type of stuff that you'll hear. Basically where I'm going with it is, if you've got a knee problem, we need to address the ankles and hips. If you've got a hip problem, you need to go below and above, because that chain in terms of how you spread force basically dictates where you will feel pain. So yeah, let's maybe touch into like common sort of injuries and niggles and how we could potentially work to overcome them. So
yeah, so it's interesting when you talk about obviously hip problems and knee problems, and not so much if you have a knee problem, we don't necessarily go directly to the knee to address that problem. It could be something to do with the ankle, could be the hip. Your hip is pretty much the middle of your body, isn't it? Yeah. So your hip and your pelvis, that's taking the weight of your spine, the weight of your top half, but also it's dictating how much load goes through the leg up to the, like, because it could go through your hip and into your spine if your hip's not in the right position. So then you could end up with spine issues, back issues. So the key thing is where your pain isn't necessarily where your problem is. Yeah. So you can have a knee problem, but it could actually be that your hip's out of line. So when you come in, and that's the importance of going to somebody and getting a full assessment done on your body, your hips, your knees, Because if you just come in and say, yeah, I've got a sore knee, and someone goes, okay, yeah, let's treat your knee, you're not really going to get to the bottom of the problem, because it goes right through the chain.
Yeah, and that's like a graded exposure thing. So like, you've got to understand, like, if somebody does come to you with that problem, it's what they want to get back to. So I say this all the time. I help a lot of people who compete in sport, a lot of different coaches throughout the city, people who might just walk for the paper and back every day who are a little bit older. You got to understand what that person's set point is in terms of, like, I'm here and I can't do X, Y, and Z. It might be I can't press overhead in the gym. Somebody's else set point might be I can't put my socks on of a morning. And then you got to understand what the end goal is, and that's what, like, true rehabilitation is it's graded exposure into strength and conditioning, and then you get the person ready for that task. Now, if it's a 60-year-old woman who just walks for the paper and back every day and a back sore, graded exposure is going to be a lot less, because her end goal is just to walk for the paper and back. Now, if it's an athlete who needs to compete at high intensity, high force, high speed, their graded exposure is going to look completely different. So obviously, feeding in across that journey, you've got to use graded exposure. So, like, a lot of people in the industry will just go, like, I'm in pain, I'll rest the area for 6 or 8 weeks, I'll jump back into train, and guess what happens? They blow up when they go there. So it's like, yeah, I haven't ran for 8 weeks, I jumped into train last night, football, and my hamstrings went again. And the answer is I know, because you've had no exposure to that task. So then you fall back to the bottom of the line then. So you've got to make them repeated jumps to make sure that you are ready for that end goal task. As I say, people will come through and say, I can't play football, I've been out for 8 weeks. Some people will come in and say, I can't press overhead without pain in my shoulder. Some people will say, every time I run, my low back's loading up and it's cramping, it's spasm, and it's, as you said, like, you don't just hammer the one area what you feel pain in. You're looking to make overall function better from everywhere. And that does come into proper graded exposure and proper programming again, where you would go from pain to performance in terms of rehabilitation into S&C, if it's an athlete or somebody who wants to train, and make sure you're giving them the tools that they need to handle that force. So, like, looking into, like, force absorption and force production, it comes into S&C in terms of, like, plyometrics and that type of stuff. Now, if you get somebody in pain and you say, right, we're going to start with plyos, they're probably going to feel more pain and blow up because the force is that high. Yeah. So if someone comes in with knee pain, it doesn't always mean you're injured, but then you have to expose them back to that task in a gradual way. And that's where having that sort of the scope of practice to understand when to nudge them at the right rate, pays dividends in terms of, like, what you get from the rehabilitation or the physio that you choose. So I know a lot of people nowadays are just looking at, like, you're tight, now you're loose, and then, like, they're looking for the just one tool in terms of, like, yeah, I've been seeing a massage therapist, or I've been to see a chiropractor, or I've been to see a physio at the NHS, but more often than not, what people are exposing themselves to isn't enough. They're just using one like method, and you need everything. So, as I say, if you've got a knee problem, you've got an everything problem, because you want to make the whole body work better to absorb the task that you're throwing at it, which could be running, football, walking for the paper. So it's a key one, yeah. So it's how you get that person from A to B within a proper structure is what's going to matter most, and that exposure to running. You do see a lot of people start to have them niggles through the chain. So
yeah, and as you said, because it's a high impact sport to go into on your knees, especially, as well as your ankles and hips. But your most common thing is knee, isn't it, with a runner? And whether it be because of the hip or it doesn't matter, like, the knee pain is probably the most common. That alongside with the common shin splints, which again is nothing to do with the shin. It's to do with your structures around the shin, so your knee, your ankle, your hip even. But it's hard, because you can go and see a sport therapist, you can go and see a massage therapist and get that muscular structure lengthened. I know you said about tight and loose, but in the proper terms, it's short and lengthened. So you can go and get that muscle lengthened, and the pain will subside short term, and that's it. It's only short term, because you're not actually adapting the structure to the right, I'll just say, like the actual
The task that you're trying
to do, and then basically your structure needs to be in the perfect position to do that task. If it's not, then it's going to be pulling on other parts of the body.
Yeah, and that's where it comes into spreading that force. As like, the way I explain that to people, like the tight versus loose analogy is like, I always do this in person with people. So like, have hold of a slinky and I'll push it together and say like, this is your muscle when it's tight. Yeah. This is it when it's loose, and I'll spread the slinky, and then it's like, you don't just live there. Like in human life, you've got to be able to go in and out of these positions, especially when you're running. You've got to be able to go in here really quick and here really quick repeatedly. Yeah. So like your slinky will be doing that constantly in terms of the muscle. So like when you look at like just massage therapy or like anything else of that nature, you're not just trying to achieve that and like get somebody to sit there all week, because that's not real life. You're looking to be able to achieve this, put load through the tissue, and then have the availability to be able to go in and out well. So from a muscular standpoint, you're looking for how well the tissue does contract, which somebody would call tight. Yeah. So yeah, like when you contract tissue, it's tight. That's what it's meant to be. And then it's meant to have the flexibility to become long and loose and fluid and absorb force, not just sit here. Like what yoga teachers do. Yeah. So like a lot of yoga teachers, they move unbelievable, but that's because they spend here all week. If I pull a yoga teacher here on a table, they usually blow up, and that's just because they spend all week here. Yeah. Do you get me? So it's like, it's what you want to do and what your set point is. As I say, if you got a yoga teacher, they're going to move well because they're really flexible, they're really mobile, they sit here all week. Yeah. But then, as I say, if you pull a yoga teacher's slinky into here,
or ask them to produce force.
Sure, or produce force, they're usually really weak because they spend all week at length. So you've got to be able to go in and out and be flexible and be fluid within what you're doing. And that's where you come into like the plyometric stuff, which we can maybe touch on with Nathan in terms of like that stretch, shorten cycle and like what it actually is, what you're trying to do and achieve from it. That's where sports rehabilitation would go from here into here with your S&C. And then yeah, let's maybe touch on like stretch, shorten cycle and what plyometrics actually are and how we can implement them, because that for me is the end phase of rehabilitation if you're looking to get somebody back into running / sport and performance. So yeah, let's maybe dive in.
Yeah, I think
put them on the spot here.
Plyos are like one of the especially for the general public or the, like, you know, amateur athletes, they're quite neglected because they don't know what they are, why you do them, where you do them. So I just keep it very simple. I use them as like a warm up, just because it's like they're quite fun to do. Yeah. And it just ticks a box, and you do get a lot of benefit from it, and it just prepares you for the session nicely, especially if you're going into like a low body sort of session. But I just keep it very simple and think about like it as a journey. So I always start with force absorption. So that'll be like your drop lands, triple extension into power position, just the ability to produce force and then absorb it. But where people often make the mistake is you still need force to absorb. So if you're not producing enough to absorb, it's like counterintuitive. Like that's why, like I'd say, our drop lands better. You do want to be like your ground contact needs to be quite aggressive. So you want to be like smashing into the floor and absorbing that well. Then from there you go into like your stretch shortening cycle, or I like to think about it as like an elastic band, or like I call it recycling energy, which is basically what it is. So as we land, your muscles and connected tissues, tendons will like store elastic energy, and then you can like recycle that by producing force straight away. So you see that with like a drop depth jump, something like that. So we're landing and then we're going straight into a jump. But you can manipulate them again. You can go short ground contact time, long ground contact time, but you want to be exposed to all. And then finally I like to go into like rate of force development, which is like the ability to continually produce force. So like broad jumps, or like the kneel and start broad jumps like we were doing the other day. Yeah. So it's a mixture of them, but the most important thing is it needs to be multi-directional as well. It needs to be unilateral, bilateral, because like you said, life doesn't life doesn't happen in a linear fashion, does it? Like, so we need to be able to absorb and produce force on unilaterally, bilaterally, multi-directional. So it's quite a complex thing, and if you're going to try and include it into your programs, I'd definitely do a bit of research on it, or speak to a coach, or if you have got a coach, and ask them about it, because it's especially for like runners, any athlete, like any athlete at all, you'll see doing some sort of plyometric drills. It's super important, especially like we were talking about before, like the ankle complex, building up robustness. Pogos are perfect for that. Yeah. So you're building up ankle robustness, you're building up rate of force development, you're training the stretch shortening cycle. Again, you can do that with long ground contact time, short ground contact time. You're just about manipulating like the variables of plyometrics to achieve whatever it is you're looking for from that exercise.
Yeah. And it comes back to the slinky thing. But as I was saying, like that's pretty much what the stretch shortening cycle is. If you have hold of a slinky and you pull it long, you're going to be able to go here and here quick. That's why like stretching and stuff, people are always like, from like a niggles and an injury standpoint, people will come in and go, yeah, I've been stretching for 30 minutes a day, but like nothing's happening. And it's because you're just sitting here. Yeah. And then if you go back to running and you need this in and out of range, quick, stretch shortening cycle, sitting here all day doesn't have any benefit. That's why for me, I never prescribe stretching for anybody in pain. I prescribe like load before length. Yeah,
he did it with me, didn't he? And honestly, I thought, what's he talking about? But like, he knows what he's talking about, so I'll do what he's telling me to do. And I did. Yeah. And then that's what I was doing, stretching. He was like, I'll put load for it. I felt 100 times better. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe that works.
Yeah. Hamstring problems. I've helped loads of people in the last, like from January to now, coming in with long-term pain, shoulders, blah, 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 knees. I've just helped a lad there who's had 5 years of knee pain, and I've got him out of pain within 4 weeks by not touching him, not massaging him, showing him how to load properly, how to extend, how to hinge properly, how to put true tension through his tissue, which is going to create tightness or squeeze. Yeah. He's getting more tension and tightness in his tissue, and he's out of pain, and he's now running. That's where you've got to come away from just stretching. So stretching is beneficial 100%, but if you're looking to become more robust and offset pain, and the thing you're doing is creating pain, i.e. running or football or whatever, as Nathan said, load before length is the way I would look at it first, because it works. Like,
it's like you were saying,
hamstring pain gone, not stretched it once, load.
It's like you were saying in a previous podcast about the way like your nervous system wants to protect itself, so like it might be feeding back to you, telling you've got pain there, but you can almost like trick it by putting low through it and actually saying to the like feeding back to the nervous system and say like, we're still strong there,
we're safe.
We're safe. So then when the body becomes used to actually we are strong there, we can produce force there, we can stay there. Like if you're doing something like isometric,
isometric, so
kinda,
the journey begins,
the pain kind of like starts to reduce on almost. For me, it disappeared. Obviously it wasn't a massive injury, but it was enough for me to feel it while I was walking. And then you prescribed some single leg hamstring glute bridges with isometric hold, and after like one session, the pain just faded away.
It's like as you said, you didn't actually touch him. He had knee pain for 5 years, and you didn't physically put your hands on him and manipulate the body. Or
he always touches me.
But that's quite a key thing, is like you get quite a few people coming in saying, I can't go like 2 weeks or 3 weeks or even 2 months without seeing a sports therapist, a chiropractor, this, that and the other. If you're going back for the same treatment time after time, that's pretty much telling me that there's something else wrong that's causing that pain. Now, it's not a injury, it's not a torn muscle or anything. That's a pathology of the body. You've got something wrong with the way that your body's operating. So you need to address that first, and then work on the muscular system if that's the case. Yeah,
and it comes down to like, because you feel pain, it doesn't always mean you're injured, and vice versa. So like you could have pain in the knee, massive with diagnosis, it doesn't mean you always need that issue diagnosed. Like that's feedback from your nervous system. Like if you're getting pain in the knee when you're running, that's feedback from the nervous system, and you need to basically trick and convince the nervous system that you are safe to load that tissue. Now if you get a good coach who understands how to load that tissue with graded exposure, the pain will go. Are you injured? No. But it doesn't mean because you feel pain you are injured. Obviously, like if you go and get a scan and you can put all grades on it, you've got a grade 2 hamstring tear, whatever, that's an injury, and that tissue needs to be remodelled and have a load put through it. If you've just torn your hamstring, would you stretch your hamstring? I wouldn't, because the tissue's torn. You'd put load through it and make it regenerate and remodel and all that type of stuff. So it's...
And putting load through it doesn't necessarily mean like, I've got a torn hamstring, I'm going to go and do an RDL.
It's
like,
within...
This is where you need to speak to like guys like yourselves who understand what sort of load you're talking about. Because some people might take that the wrong way and be like, oh, it's alright, I'll just go and do some deadlifting.
Yeah, I'll go and do weights because
But it's not like that.
But it's not.
That's
really
where it comes to, like you were saying, about the knowledge of how you actually achieve the load.
Yeah. In terms of graded exposure, yeah, and exposing people at the right rate for what's right for them based on what they feel, what you might feel. So it's pain doesn't mean injury.
It's interesting that I found that interesting when you were speaking about it on the last podcast.
Yeah, and that's it. You're ultimately trying to trick the nervous system to convince it that you're safe to use that tissue, and then when you do use that tissue, the pain sort of.
It's like when you start running, especially when I first started last year. The first 5k, almost 3 miles. When I first started, hip, knee, ankles, back, like screaming at me, like stop, like telling me to stop. But once I warmed up proper, obviously that reduced over time. Now I can just my body's just like, yeah, we're running again, it's fine. But it took me like 3 miles for my body to actually settle down into itself.
Yeah. Well, that's it. That's because you've had no exposure. You've went like from just basically lifting heavy, haven't you? At the time, you were just lifting, weren't you? And then you've went, right, I'm going to introduce running. No exposure to it. I know what you're like, diving right at the deep end. Which is like your training style.
Like I have done it in the past. That's how I'll be in Chris met. Like I was just redlining every session. I didn't really. This is before I educated myself properly, so I wasn't really. I thought I knew more than I did, and I clearly never. And redlined every session, ended up turning my calf or whatever. But yeah, like I'm guilty of it myself, and but yeah, like I was saying, it's just like like the feedback you get from your nervous system, and like what I was getting for like the first 5 kilometers, 3 miles, like just. Me back, me glutes, me hips, me ankles, me knees, like me shins, like everything's just screaming at you to stop. Yeah. But it's almost just like a safety, like your nervous system trying to save your body. But at the end of the day, stress and stimulus is good for the body. Without the stress, without the stimulus, your body doesn't adapt. Yeah. So you may feel for like new runners starting, the first few miles are very sore, but don't, unless it's like actual genuine pain. Then don't stop, just kind of keep going, keep it nice and easy, just I don't want to say push through it, because if it's genuine pain then you do need to stop, but if it's just like,
I think you can always tell the difference, you can always tell the difference between, right, that's really sore, that something's wrong, compared to, this is a bit of an ache,
it's almost like a mental battle, I think.
Well, people don't give the nervous system and the brain the credit that it deserves. It's warning you, it's going, right, okay, I'm in a position which I'm not normally in. You need to step back, but as you said, your body won't adapt without that stress and the stimulus.
Exactly. So, that's why it's so, like you're saying, how clever the nervous system is, how clever the body is physiologically. It's like, oh, we're doing this a lot, we need to adapt. I think that's like the most amazing thing about exercise is the adaptations you get. And you might, at the time, you might feel like you're not doing anything, but like I look back to when I first started running. I sent you the video on the WhatsApp group the other day. I started walking because I couldn't run, and my fastest kilometre was 7 minutes. Now I'm running like my fastest kilometre now is 3.5 minutes, and that's in 8 months worth of training. Yeah. So you don't realise what's happening over time until you look back. Yeah. But you're only going to achieve that if you stick with it.
Yeah. But that's it. Your nervous system, as you said, like it's not always pain. Like if you're in pain, you're not always got a problem, and that's it. Like your nervous system warned you before anything happens. You've seen it where like they put like a screen in front of their arm and they put a fake arm next to it so they can see the fake arm but not the real arm, and they stab it. People flinch. That's your nervous system telling you, whoa, like something's wrong there, but nothing's actually happened to you. And it's the same with when you go running, nothing's actually gone wrong with you, but your nervous system's just going, hang on a minute, I'm just going to give you a little warning signal. And that's all they are really, is warning signals. As long as you're doing it correctly, as you said, graded exposure, not going in at the deep end, you'll be all right and you will push through it, and that basically warning signal will go away after.
That's why it's important to understand programming, basically. Ultimately, I think that's the most exposure. That's why you have programming. And it's the same thing with rehab. It's graded exposure.
Yeah. Anyone can follow a program on the internet. Anyone can download a program that's generic for everybody and follow it, but that doesn't mean that you've got to the next stage. If you haven't got to the next stage, then you shouldn't be progressing. You should stay in the first phase of it.
Yeah, you got to be ready, and it's what it comes back to what you said about like repeated visits with going to see somebody. So like people who will go like, I go and see someone every 2 weeks. That's great, and like it's got massive benefit, but there's a big difference between going to see somebody because you enjoy it and you're getting recovery and you're getting mental and physical benefits versus trying to get out of pain or offsetting an injury. So like the two separate ends, even though it's the same sort of what's the word? Like it's the same sort of setup. The two things are different. So if you're trying to offset an injury and get out of pain, it'll look different to if you're going in just for recovery. So like that's why I always say to people, like, I'm not married to one tool. Like if you come in and you've got shoulder pain, we're going to assess and address why, and we might use a variety of them tools. Now if you come in to see me every 2 weeks and you just want a little bit of active recovery, you want the sports massage, you want to put the Normatex on and all that type of stuff, that's active recovery or passive recovery. If you're coming in because you've got a torn meniscus, it looks completely different, and that's where you will separate somebody who's just telling you you're tight versus loose.
Yeah, that
versus,
as you said,
this
that's
is how
the
you get
difference.
out of pain, and this is how you deal with injury, and this is how, when you go back into your sport, you're going to stay there. And that's where you need to sort of distinguish the two and how you use them tools, because most people who come to me will come and go, I've been told to come and see you by X, Y and Z. I've been going to see sports massage therapists for the last 2 years and I'm still in pain.
Yeah,
so like, you got to know what tools to use.
The key to it is it's a pain. Like if you have a pain for say 2, 4, 5, even 10 years, some people that have come to see you, you've got them out of pain that they've been in for 10 years and they've been going and seeing the same things all the time and just getting short-term releases. Yeah, if you're coming just for a bit of recovery and stuff like that,
great.
By all means, that's brilliant.
Great, that's a privilege, because, and it's a nice position to be in.
Yeah, and you will be in a better shape for it. But if you're coming for a pain issue, then if it's been there for years and years and years and someone's been doing the same thing every month to you, then it's not the right thing, is it?
Yeah, and it comes down to passive versus active. So like, ultimately what matters most is what the person who's in pain does. It doesn't matter what I do to somebody else or in terms of an input. What matters most is that their body can actually do what it needs. So like, I can't be there manipulating someone's spine. If they get pain every time they run, they've got to be able to move their own spine when they run themselves, or whatever the scenario is. It's always coming back to the person rather than me fixing something or the therapist fixing something. It's about, you're the catalyst. You give them the tools, graded exposure, S&C, stretch, shortening, all that type of stuff, force absorption, force production, into giving them that scenario where they own their own body. That's ultimately where you're going with it, because as I say, it is race season now, and like event season in terms of like the spring and summer coming in, and a lot of people do start to pick up niggles when they start to expose themselves to higher volume, higher frequency running. So like, these tools that you can use are there, they're black and white, but a lot of people get married to one tool and it's not the answer. So it's always about a variety. This is where like the stuff like the hybrid style program that we've released, it ticks all the boxes. You've got ISOs, you've got bulletproof specific, active recovery flow days, strength training, structured conditioning with the running. So like, you're getting an exposure to everything, and that's basically whether you come through in a remote setting or you're coming in person. We've all got that skill set where we can ask each other, such and such is struggling with this, what would you do? This is what I'd do, what do you think? And you can make it a true experience where everybody gets everything. As I said the other day, I put like a little bit of a story up the other day, but like, not to gloat, but like, basically everyone who comes through to see us just gets better and levels up in all aspects, and that's because we're giving them all the tools, not because we're telling them you need to see us forever. It's about giving people their body back by allowing them to function better, by showing them how to own their own body, which feeds into like the programming that we deliver. Obviously, we're trying to take people from pain to performance, and where they come in is their set point, and we're going to always give them the tools. So it's a big one in terms of, if you're not doing any specific work to become more conditioned to be a better runner, and you are a runner listening, and you're coming into race season and you're going to massively jump your exposure, you're probably going to start to feel these common niggles and injuries. So you might as well combat it before it becomes an injury or pain or whatever, by preventing, by having a proper program, rather than reacting when it's too late and you're like, oh yeah, I've had this problem, I've been running through it, because everyone wants to Goggins everything nowadays, but nobody else is in, and then you pay the price later on.
Well,
so
the thing is basically what we've got at the minute, it's quite a unique time where we can literally see every single athlete that you've ever heard of, thought of. So all the runners, all the swimmers, everything. and we want to do that. We want to be those people, but we haven't built the foundations that they've built, and we haven't owned the space that they have.
You forget that they've come on that journey. They've gone from pain to performance. They've done they do the plyometrics, they do the strength, they do the mobility, they do the active and passive recovery. They
walk out that door.
All you see is a snippet on Instagram, an Instagram reel of this, but you don't see what they did down here to get there. And it's all the board and stuff. It's like the plyometric stuff. If you're a runner and you're not doing plyometrics, why not? Running is basically prolonged plyometrics. All you're doing, absorbing force, producing force constantly, unilaterally. So if you can't do it and you're weak there, you don't really have any right to run, because you're going to get to a certain point where you're going to get a sustaining injury because you're not exposing yourself to that sort of intensity.
And that's what people do all the time. It's been the done thing for years, even with trainers. Literally, the trainers now are designed to allow you to run like an athlete. So you can buy all sorts of trainers now. You buy them with the carbon plates in them. You buy them with the air bubbles in them. You buy them with the spikes in them. You buy them with just the front foot landing. You can buy whatever trainer you want to allow you to run like the athlete you want to run like. But no one's actually going, right, okay, you need this one. You need to do this to be able to run like that. They're just diving in at the deep end, buying the most expensive stuff, and then just running in them.
All the gear, no idea. It's like the Alpha Flies that I bought. Their sales increased massively after Kipchoge set the world marathon record.
But no one else is setting that with them shoes on. So you got to have.
So the shoes are great, but so everyone's like, all right, I need them shoes then, because Kipchoge set the world marathon record in them shoes.
And you're chasing.
But we'll just forget about all the years of hard work and board and stuff he's done. Kipchoge runs 12 times a week, and 10 of his runs are easy. So he runs 10 zone 2 runs, and they're 3 minutes slower than his race pace. So he ran the world record, I think it was like 5.5 minute miles, but he trains at 9 minute miles. But for the majority of people, that's still quite quick. But they're his easy miles.
Yeah, for him, that's
so like take that into consideration. If Kipchoge's running 3 minutes slower than his race pace, then don't go out saying you're doing a zone 2 or an easy run and you're running a minute slower than your race pace. You see it all the time. People are like, oh, easy run, and it's like, you can tell looking at that, and the heart rate's in the high 60s. Or the pace is like 5.5 minutes, and you're like, I know you're not that fit, or you might be fit enough to run there, but like, that's not an easy run for you.
Well, it's fit enough to run it, but it's not. It's being fit enough to run it in zone 2.
Exactly,
and that's the difference. Yeah, you might feel okay. You might go, yeah, that was a great run. That I feel great.
Yeah, you do get them runs,
but that doesn't mean you've been in zone 2. That means you've just. But
sometimes I like once a week. Sometimes I'll just run off feel. Yeah, and if I feel good, I'll run a bit quicker than normal. I just feel good.
Yeah, run to comfort.
Yeah, and you see a lot of that fake easy miles on Instagram, and it's really not glamorous. It's super slow. If you see me, like most of my, I must look like a snail, because I'm running that slow, like 7 minutes. It's like 11 minute miles. My zone 2 pace sometimes, depending on how like fatigued I am. On a good day, 10 minute miles. It's like, so for some people that's like, it's like walking backwards, but it is what it is. But then when it comes to actually going on the track or racing, I outrun most people because I do that boarding way.
Yeah. And then talking about the trainers, people will buy those Alpha Flies that are designed for fast paced long distance running.
Yeah, so you don't buy them and then try and go and do a zone 2 run in them.
Exactly.
You hate, don't they? Because they're trying to propel you forward. That's how they work. And if you're
now resistant,
it's two opposite forces. Yeah. You're not trying to run fast, but they're pushing you to try and run fast.
Yeah. And the shoes are designed like with the plyometrics in mind. They're designed to basically absorb and produce force at a better rate for you. The way you strike the floor with your the front half of your foot. The centre of mass is ahead of your body, which is like, from a running technique perspective, that's what you want. You want like a slight torso lean, free rib cage, and then you want to be projecting yourself forward, like, so that's where they're designed in mind.
I know it's slightly different, but when you look at prosthetics in the Paralympics and stuff like that, you look at the lower limb prosthetics, look at the way that they're designed. They're designed with the curve on them, and then the front, it's right in front. It's not behind them. It's like heel size. It's in front of them, and then that's where the spring comes from. And it's the same thing for you.
They did a study on that, like biomechanics.
Did they? Yeah.
And he looked at velocity produced, and the guys who were wearing the blades were producing like 3 times as much velocity as the guys with wearing shoes because of that bouncy. So it's crazy, like, and that's basically what them shoes are doing. But think about it like this: if you do your board and stuff, you do your zone 2, you build your aerobic base, you do your plyometrics, you do your strength work, and then you become faster and fitter, and then you put your good shoes on. And you're going to get more benefit from them.
You end up as Kipchoge too.
That's it.
But it's for race day, isn't it? Yeah. But like, if you actually read the descriptions, they are for race day. They're not for training miles, and that's the reason why. Because you shouldn't be doing that in your training. You should be doing, as you said, your zone 2 work.
I only use mine for like, I have a zone 2 pair. I have like a mid-range pair. And I have like a track and a race day pair. Like, I'm a bit of a weirdo. I've bought too many shoes.
But as you say, when the technology and that side of things is going through the roof now, and it's really interesting to see, like,
but understanding it as well, and where you utilise that technology.
I've got the mid-range carbon fibre plate ones, and they kill to run slowing. Like, they destroy you. My ankles were in pieces the other week. I went out and was doing, like, for me, a really slow run. And I basically had to get off and open up because my ankles were killing.
Because Chris is a genetic freak, by the way.
So I've heard. I'm not too sure about that.
That's why Nathan keets buying the most expensive shoes.
I'm just trying to keep up on it.
Trying to keep up with me. I like it. It's good. Pushes you forward.
I like training with people who are fitter than me.
Yeah.
Iron sharpens iron, doesn't it? You know what I mean?
That's it, isn't it?
But yeah, with the running from that side, like, it's everything you do has like a certain cost on your body, and how much you pay is sort of how ready. So you're always going to pay tax on the task that you take, and how much tax you pay is going to be dictated by how well a position your body is in to absorb it, which comes into that exposure. And then now we see with like the technology advances and stuff like that, it's really interesting to see, like, shoes can give you the edge, but obviously you can't just put them shoes on and be a good runner. As we're saying, you've got to have that exposure and build.
You do the bonus stuff.
Yeah.
The
thing is,
build up to it.
You can put those shoes on, and although the feedback is a lot more than your average pair of running shoes, that doesn't mean to say that you're going to be faster in those shoes. If you're not using them correctly, then you're not going to be faster.
You're a heel striker then.
Exactly, a heel striker. You're not going to actually produce that force. Like,
you actually break force if you're heel striking. That's why
it's actually going to hurt your body a lot more. As you said, with the slow run, that's probably because you're changing your running gait, and it's causing a lot of stress on your body because you're restricting that plyometric movement from the carbon plate.
That's it. And it's conditioning versus fitness, isn't it? So are you conditioned to be a good runner? What do you need to be a good runner, or what do you need to be a good athlete? Versus fitness, you can be really, really fit, but not that well conditioned to the task. And this is obviously where, like, specific programming and stuff comes in, specific adaptations with your high end, low end energy system work, how well your joints move, how flexible you are, how well you absorb and produce force. It all comes round full circle all the time, because
it's a full package, isn't it?
That's it, because conditioning is different than fitness, and I don't think many people understand the difference between the two. Absolutely, and it's like, you got to be conditioned to the task. That's how well ready you are, in really simplistic terms, how well ready you are to absorb what that task costs you.
And continuously do it.
Yeah, and continuously do it. Or fitness, which is just like, I can run a...
Might be good on a fitness test, for example.
Yeah, like, and it shows up data.
You hit the road and you don't perform to what your fitness test may suggest.
It's an interest. Obviously, we all had our the V02 Max scores and stuff done the other week, didn't we? Which was really interesting, with Matty from AIhealthician, who I think we're going to potentially get on the podcast at some point, but we could maybe go through that at another time, in terms of like how you actually get your own zones to make sure that you are getting adaptations.
And that's it. We've done it for our training purposes. We will go into it a lot more detail with Matty. But the reason why we done it is we wanted to find out our own zone 2s or zone 3, 4, 5, your V02 Max, and then we're going to do these events during the summer, and then we're going to test again, and then we're going to see if our training has been successful or not. And obviously with going behind the science and stuff like that, we are going to get positive adaptations. So we're going to see at what level it's going to be, and then we can go, right, okay, what are we lacking? What aren't we progressing?
It does like highlight the gaps in your training.
Definitely, yeah.
Or where like you might need to spend a bit more time, or you might need to do a bit more work.
The value from the value of data that you get for the money that it costs is amazing. I couldn't believe the amount of data that you got off that test. It was brilliant,
and it guides training decisions. So as you say, like, for the, like, talking about adaptations all the time, like, if you know how to gain adaptations in terms of, you know, where your gaps are within your fitness or your training schedule, there's the data. That's what I'm missing. And then that guides your future programming decision, and you always want to be training to some form of structure, because if you're just turning up going, let's burn 400 calories, or
This is running as fast as I can.
yeah, like it's just grey zone stuff, isn't it, where you don't actually know whether you're getting better. If you're into training and you're interested in it and you're interested in leveling up, these are the things you should be doing, because like if it matters to you, you'll find a way to make sure that you're getting the best thing for what you can fit into your schedule. As I say, this is the benefit of having like a coach and somebody who is going to give you the structure. It's not a plug, it's just, if it matters to you enough, you will find a way to find what works best for you. And if you're really interested in leveling up performance and getting better as an individual for everyday life, training, running, whatever, these are the gaps you need to find out what you've got. And it's something that I've been speaking to a lot of people about, in terms of finding what your true gaps are and plug the gaps to get better. Because as we've said earlier on in the podcast, low hanging fruit and like trying to bump up percentages, people are just leaving percentages on the floor and not even thinking about this stuff. They're just in a rhythm. I'll turn up, I'll do back and biceps, I'll do chest and triceps.
Well, turn up to the gym and not knowing what you're doing.
That's it. That's even worse. Like turning up and just going, I'll just decide what I'm doing on the day. It's a horrendous idea.
It's always something you probably shouldn't be, because you just do whatever you like.
Yeah. And that should be the thing that you should leave at home.
But what we're saying is we're trying to build an all-round athlete. So we're not saying you're going to be an elite level powerlifter or a weightlifter or a bodybuilder or elite level runner. But the chances are you're going to be in the top, I don't know, 5% of the population when it comes to being stronger, faster, fitter, healthier. So
and
it's an all-round.
You look good with that eventually when you just...
and you'll walk into a majority of rooms and you'll probably be the fittest, strongest, fastest guy in the room.
Yeah.
More often than not.
It's
depending on what circles you're in.
Yeah. It's being ready for anything that's thrown your way as well.
But then if you're not, just buy them Alpha Fly shoes then.
That's it. Or get on the bar.
So,
I
wish. But yeah, but by being the hybrid, you're literally ready for anything that's thrown your way. So if someone come to us and went, right, we've got this event here, do you fancy doing it? I'd probably say like 9 times out of 10 we'll be like, yeah, we're comfortable doing that, because we know that our body's conditioned enough to do it. And it's
adaptable.
I did that.
Adaptable, adapt and overcome.
I did that trail race the other week, didn't I? And
yeah,
I finished in the top 50. Never
done trail race in your life.
First trail race I've ever done in my life. Did I think I was going to finish in the top 50? I just went to do it just because I wanted to do one. And that's just a byproduct of me training like an athlete, doing my plyometrics, doing my strength training, doing my ballistics, doing my board and stuff. Seeing you guys when I've got little niggles or anything like that. And I found, especially on that race, when it came to the hills, you see like good running guys, they're quite slender, quite lean, but they really struggle going up the hills. And I was just flying past them up the hills. They went past me on the straights, but when it came to actually digging deep and actually producing force, I was and I think that's why I was able to finish so far in front of the rest of the pack, because there was a lot of big steep inclines over the 10k race, and I was able to just maintain pace and keep producing force continuously, and that's only because I do them boring things in the gym. Which I say boring, but I don't find them boring. I enjoy them.
But what the genetic population say is like,
it's not back and biceps. It's
exactly.
It's different. We're training like athletes.
Yeah, and that's it. And to train like an athlete is not to say that it's fun, and it can be fun. Don't get me wrong, but to train like they're people's jobs. Like, do you go to, like, there's a very, very small percentage of people that go to work and go, I really enjoy that job. Like, obviously, you will be one of them. Like, you go, right, okay, I go to work and I enjoy what I do. And that's unbelievable, because it's literally probably 1% of the population have that feeling. But 99% of the population don't enjoy it. Now, an athlete, their job is to do that. Yeah,
so they might get mundane with it and just think they're going through the motions, but obviously, as we've touched on with like the Kipchoge and the Goggins and stuff, like what you repeatedly do, the boring stuff, like it builds the base. So like
if you speak to Kipchoge, he's not going to say I love my 10 slow runs. He's going to say I love my 2 runs where I test myself and I push myself. They're the things that he loves.
He's earned the right to do that.
Exactly.
And that's what it's all about.
So you've got to do the things that aren't fun and aren't exciting to be able to perform at the things that are fun and exciting, and not, as you said, you're not paying too much tax on that. So you're literally like you're basically saving yourself.
Yeah, that's it. It's unfortunate because like if you're elite at one thing, pays huge amounts of money. If you're really good at a lot of different things, it doesn't pay that much money, and that's probably what I'm like. I'm like a really good all-rounder. If you stick me in the gym, I'm pretty good. Not a bad footballer. Like pretty much every sport I can turn my hand to, I'm pretty good at if I actually do it. I'm relatively fit, I'm relatively strong, but I'm not unbelievable at one thing, which is unfortunate because if you are unbelievable at one thing...
But then a person who isn't training like that would look at you and go, he is unbelievable at that.
Yeah. But
So,
it's not because I am, it's because I'm a relative all-rounder in terms of like that variety of
like
things.
running
So
a 1:45 half marathon for your first half marathon,
yeah,
people look at that and go, fucking hell.
yeah, that's quick.
That's
but
quick,
it's,
that.
for me, it weren't. I was just like, that's just what I
Well,
am
you look
on
at the
day.
average,
Yeah.
like I looked at the normative values for the first time half marathon, you're looking at 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
So you've done that half marathon there 45 minutes quicker than the average person, and you're saying, I'm not elite at running.
It's not quick for me, yeah.
It's just...
Because I'm not, yeah.
But this is it.
I'm a good all-rounder.
See the gulf you've created there by just training as an all-rounder.
Elite is literally
Top
the
1%, isn't it?
smallest amount. So
And
to be
the elite is what
exceptional,
they do.
Are we
all
ever
that
going to
stuff.
achieve that? Absolutely not.
No,
We don't get
not a
paid to do
chance.
that.
Yeah.
We're not saying go out and just focus on running. We're building a package, but as you can see, the gulf that you create by training all round is absolutely massive.
Training across a full spectrum and including everything within a proper program is going to give
And
you
we're doing that by
long-term...
maintaining size and strength as well. It's not like we're
Yeah.
skinny kids who are running quick. We're fast, strong, fit.
Yeah.
So it's just you just feel better, don't you? It's a nice all round feeling.
that's it. We're not getting rid of our
Unless you're a
strength training. We're not
bodybuilder,
getting we're not getting rid of our bodybuilding. Well, yeah, you got me saying that. We're not getting rid of our strength training. We're not getting rid of our muscle mass.
You add into it.
To allow us to run. What we're doing is we're adding to it, and then we're going to improve our running anyway. So we're going to overcome the common stereotypes of if you're weight training, you can't be doing running. If you're running, you can't be doing weight training. Like, I know I was there when I was younger. I was weight training. I was like, no, I'm not running because I'll lose my size.
Yeah.
But it's not.
I mean, you probably will
true.
a tiny bit.
Yeah, you'll lose
Swings
a
and
little bit.
roundabouts, but what you lose, you gain
Yeah.
twofold in actual fitness and health.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I'm not just saying this to show off, but like I've only done 2 races, and well, how many like actual running clubs did we beat? We beat quite a few individuals that are in running, and all they do is run.
Yeah.
But we're still able to beat them and compete with them.
Yeah.
So
It's
it's
like-
Because you're an all-rounder, and the scope this gives you moving forward later on into life as well, in terms of like if you're good at a lot of different things and you're robust and you move well and you are strong, like moving on later on into your life, the benefit it's going to give you in terms of like being able to get out of bed, being able to play with your kids. If you still want to be running when you're 40 and 50, which I definitely do, I want to have that availability to wake up and go, I fancy a run there today.
40 and 50, I'm looking 60, 70.
Yeah, and beyond. Yeah, like this
Yeah.
is the type of training you want to implement now, because it's great getting shredded in 20 days. Well, it's not, but like it might look good and impressive, but like there's no
killing yourself as well.
there's no repeatability to it. So it's like this style of training you can implement forever, and you're gonna keep leveling up in all aspects to make sure that, like for me, since having kids, like my mindset has shifted towards like, right, when I'm older, I don't want to be
leave your kids, don't you?
I don't want to be looking like one of them old dads who can't move and can't play with the kids and is overweight and
It
is like,
terrifies me, that.
yeah, it scares the life out of me. And it's because I help a lot of people who are like that, in terms of like they might be mid-50s to 60s and they're coming in agony and they're just like, I can't move anymore, I can't train. It scares the life out of me. So
I'm
like
exactly
from that
the same.
perspective,
I'm terrified to be average.
Yeah.
Or to be like everyone else.
Yeah.
'Cause people always say to me, why do you train so much? Everyone ends up in a box. That's what everyone says, don't they? I'm like, yeah, that's true. But
That's how you get there.
the last 20, the average year spent in ill health in the UK is 20 years. So you're probably going to spend 20 years of your life miserable and in ill health.
Yeah.
Can't enjoy your holidays, can't enjoy your day-to-day life. I might only spend 3 or 5 because of all the work I've done.
That's
I
it.
might not spend any.
There's no getting away from the fact that your body ages. Everyone's body will age. Everyone will die. There's no getting away from that. But it's how you
Exercise is
get there.
proven to slow that down as well.
Well, that's it. It's slow that down. It's not so much. You might not prolong your life, but you'll
Probably
prolong. Well, you will. But
Not
say
to like
you,
it.
say you don't prolong your life, but if those last 20 years are a lot better.
yeah,
Enjoy
that
it.
not-
It's quality of life,
It's
isn't it? At the end of the
quality
day.
of life, yeah.
And when it
So,
comes to like being a dad or a mum or
yeah,
parents, whatever,
every year counts.
That's it. And,
Well,
and just having
even
that
if you're
good
not having
relationship.
kids,
Why,
even
why
if you
wouldn't you
don't.
want to play footy with your son, with Leo when he grows up? You want to be able to go and play footy with him.
Yeah.
You want to, like your half fella does with you. You want to go, might want to go with a run with Leo.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So
But that's it. Even if you don't have kids, doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
Yeah, it's not
You
just
go
the
out with
kid
your mates and
specific.
that.
It's just like you just like basically you want to wake up
that's
in the
just your
morning.
why, isn't it?
Yeah, and like if you want to do something, you want to have the availability to do it. Why would you wake up and go, "No, what I fancy going up a mountain here today, but I can't because my low back's fucked every time I walk out of our garden path." Like I couldn't think of anything worse personally.
It's
So like,
depressing, innit?
yeah, the actions you take now and the decisions you make now pay dividends.
It's like when you
training properly, eating well, eating socially as well in terms of including food. Why deny all this stuff you enjoy now? Live in amongst it and try and level up all together
live your life.
rather than
it's like
just,
when we retire
slugging.
eventually, and like you retire. When you retire, you want to be able to enjoy your retirement, don't you?
Retire.
So yeah, but when you get, when you get to like
Retirement.
65, 70, and like
No, I know what you mean. No.
you want to be able to like,
Yeah.
I'm going on holiday and I'm still fit and capable enough to walk up a mountain.
Yeah.
I want to be that one person. You know, when you're walking up a mountain or you're doing something, say like you're going skiing or something, and you see
the freak,
half
the
fella
outlier.
that's
Yeah.
just literally like flying down the mountain on
Yeah.
the skis, and
It's
he's
inspiring.
70, 80, 90 years of age.
Properly
I
inspiring.
want to be that person. I want people my age now to look at me and go, "Oh my
the age
God,
of
look
him,
at him."
But
He's flying.
it's stupid because as he's saying, like when you retire, that's the time you should be going out doing all them things. And the way like people have designed life is that like you just work, retire, and then it's like, oh, you're fucked, and you sit on the couch for 20
Then
years.
when your body stops,
Yeah, so it
well,
works
when you
backwards.
stop, your body stops
Yeah,
basically.
I'm the same. I want to be that outlier where like I could be running and people are going, look at the age of him there, look how good he looks. But I want to be that guy because like
Well,
I
yeah,
still enjoy
yeah.
it. I love that type of stuff that
Yeah.
much that I want to do it forever.
Well, we
Till I
go,
can't.
we run around Sefton Park on a Sunday.
Yeah.
There's one person that you can guarantee you'll see every single Sunday running around
What a
Sefton
champ.
Park.
Yeah.
What a champ.
And
The old fella. And
the
he's
old fella, and he just grinds out his
heroic.
time.
Yeah, yeah.
He's enjoying
Heroic,
himself.
yeah,
He's
yeah.
always letting on.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's life. He's enjoying his life. He gets out every single Sunday. He
Champ,
might
yeah.
go. He might go every day. I don't know.
Yeah.
But he's definitely there every Sunday.
Yeah.
And he's just going for a little run in the park.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Imagine doing that at his age.
That's it.
Like,
And
I
it
don't
doesn't
know
always
how
have
old
to
he
be
is, but
running.
he's definitely on the older
He's an
side.
elderly fella, like,
yeah,
yeah.
he's an elderly fella, but he's
And
running.
he's got the availability.
Yeah.
He's got the availability to do it because he
Yeah.
enjoys it, and that's what.
What you also see around
That's what you
Sefton
hit
Park is like our fellas with their daughters and their sons going for them. I think that's really good as well.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, getting the kids in. Like that's what I want to do. Like obviously I've got a daughter on the way. I'd love nothing more than when she grows up, when she's a bit older, I can take her to Sefton Park and go for a run with her.
Yeah, yeah.
I'd love
But
that.
Just anything that she enjoys and you enjoy at the time, like, and have the availability to do it. That's it.
And the capability to do it as well,
Yeah,
which
that's
is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So,
So yeah, basically everybody
Get on the app now.
get on the app, buy the hybrid program, and we'll help you level up.
we'll add years to your life now. We're not advertising.
Yeah, we're not claiming that, by the way. We're just saying that's our ethos behind ultimately what we want to do. We want to feel good. We all want to get better. We all want to
Help
level
people.
up, help people in the process, which I'm obviously massively lucky, and the boys are massively lucky to be able to do.
Do something you enjoy.
And then have the availability to do what you want to do long term rather than.
Well, we're trying to do it for ourselves.
Yeah, that's
So
it.
we're never going to sell something to somebody else that we don't want to do ourselves.
Yeah.
So everything that we do.
And it makes us happy, so we know like it's going to make
Yeah.
other people happy.
Yeah.
And the thing is we all enjoy ourselves as well. We're not doing it and then going, right, we're living a boring life, but we're going to live it long.
Yeah.
No, we're
I had
enjoying
cheese on
it.
toast with me tea last night. You know what I mean?
I eat almond croissants
We
every day.
don't promote cheese on toast.
I
every
mean,
night.
I'm proper normal.
Gives you nightmares, cheese, you know.
I've heard it does. But yeah, eat
Yeah.
food you enjoy, train hard, train with structure,
Love life.
don't put up in agony, and have a long one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Or a
right,
quality one.
race day, Sunday. This Sunday, how are you feeling? Obviously, I'm not there, but how are you feeling?
I'm feeling fit, to be fair. I'm pretty I'm definitely, my last race in last November was 146. Yeah. My very first half, so I was quite pleased with that. But I'm 100% certain I'm going to run it faster than 146. Yeah. Where, I don't know. I'm aiming for a 140. I don't know if that's speculative, trying to knock 6 minutes off. Yeah. But I'm going to go for it. But I do feel super fit.
That's where you feel like that's your goal. if you get that, you'll be absolutely made up, won't you?
But if realistically, anything under 146 is an improvement.
Yeah. So you'll be happy either way as long as it's under 146.
I won't be, because you know what I'm like.
Yeah, you're always miserable.
Yeah. No, well, like as he's just said, anything like you're competing against yourself, aren't you? But like it's good to have somebody like who's similar. Like so, like me and Nathan are pretty similar. Like we're pretty good all rounders, I'd say.
Yeah.
He's spurring me on, I'm spurring him on. If he beats me on the day, I'll be made up for him, and then I'll be like, I'm gonna get you on the next one, because that's what you want.
You'll be buying the alpha flies.
Yeah, I'll be buying the alpha flies.
You were buying them last night.
But, yeah, I know, and you want people who are gonna help you level up. So like, to be honest, my prep for this half hasn't been anything near like what I would like it to, but I know I've got that like general like scope.
That base fitness, haven't you?
Yeah, I've got the scope to be able to turn up and do it pretty well. So like, I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait. Like I've done loads of half marathons in the past, but like actual event based ones where you get your chip and all that was the same as Nathan. The first one was November last year. I can't remember I done 145 something. I can't remember the exact time. It was 145.
30 seconds.
Something seconds. So
I was trying to chase him the whole time, and
looking
just seeing him in me. I'm just like that. I just got to stick with Chris.
No, but what I would like for Nathan on Sunday genuinely is that like he can turn the gas on, and then I could maybe try and keep up with him, because like I'm probably going to aim for about 140 on the day, and I know I can turn up and do that. Yeah. So for me, anything under 140 it'd be massive, because I'm not an elite level runner, and you're looking at like
if you're running in the 130s, like you're a pretty good runner, like, you know.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh,
so like I'd like to
be
do
fair,
that.
if you're under 2 hours, you're a good runner.
Yeah.
If you're under, if as you said, like the average pace is 2.5 hours. Yeah. If you're under 2 hours, you're a good runner. Yeah. But then obviously it's all about, as Chris said before, you're only racing against yourself. Yeah. So the thing is people always go for the first half marathon and go, right, okay, what time should I be aiming for?
Yeah, just complete
Absolutely no time whatsoever.
Just get it done.
Complete it. Get comfortable, find your baseline, and then say if that is 2.5 hours, then you go, next one I'm going to do it in 225, 220.
And it's easy for the like we're trying to knock off quite a lot of time of ours, like 5-6 minutes. But we're relatively new to running, so it's easier to make them big gains when you get to a point where you're like touching like your like maximal fitness. That's when it like the seconds become important then.
Of course, yeah.
Whereas we're still relatively new into this journey, so like,
well, it's your second one, isn't it? It's your second.
So knocking minutes off is doable.
Yeah.
So you've got to be quite realistic with your goals and what you're trying to achieve, because not everyone, someone who's been running races for been running for years, they're not going to knock 5 minutes off. They'd be lucky if they knock 30 seconds off.
Yeah, no matter how hard you're training.
And that's just how it is, because the fifth, like people say, it's all right for you, you're fit, you train all the time.
Yeah,
but it's not. It's hard. Do you think I want to go running 5 times a week? Yeah, maybe one of them a week I want to go for. I don't like. When I'm doing it, I'm sound.
Yeah. It's actually getting out the doors hard.
Sometimes you sit there and look at your shoes and you're like, I can't be arsed.
Yeah,
but I've just got to do it, and that's why I post all my runs on Instagram. It's not to brag. It's to, like, I have this thing in my head where I think if I don't post that today, someone's gonna look at my stories and think, oh, he's not trained today. It's like a weird thing.
Holding yourself accountable. Yeah. So to get you off the couch, get you out of the door in your trainers, you're going, right, okay, I've got to run because I've got to post it.
Yeah.
Because
otherwise people think I'm not training.
Yeah, you're holding yourself accountable. It's like almost you're putting it out there.
And then I look at other people running, like when I'm driving around, I'm like, oh, I need to go for a run, mate. You can't outrun me on the day. Don't even know the fella or the woman. I'm just like,
don't even know whether he's doing the marathon.
He's running fast. He must be fitter. You can't be fitter than me.
But again, with timings, you've got to be careful with obviously different events or different elevations and stuff like that, and different terrains. You can't always go like, right, okay, I've done say a 2 hour half marathon and go to the next one and go, I need to get better. I need to go
one and a half.
But if that first one was a flat course and then you go and the elevations are massive on the next one, so you go and do a half marathon trial run, you're not going to beat your time.
That's it.
It's still a half marathon.
Got to be realistic.
You have to be realistic, and you have to give yourself the credit where it's due. If you do an easy half marathon and then do a hard one and you get not far off your time but a little bit, you go, hang on a minute, I've done really well there because of the elevations. Yeah. So you've got to, it's not just half marathons have elevations, they have different terrains. There's a lot more to it than just I need 100%. To beat me half marathon time.
Your own yardstick, innit? Like, as we're saying there, for me on the day, like, I'd target 140, anything under 145 for me is a win.
You can target 140, you're guaranteed to come under 145.
Yeah, you're going to come under 145. So,
but like, again, the first one that we done was...
We didn't really know, did we? We just went off field, didn't we?
It was a different location. The terrain was a park.
Yeah.
It wasn't a road.
It's almost traily, weren't it?
It was a little bit traily, and it was a little bit up and down, and a little bit muddy in sections.
Yeah.
So now this one is a road race.
Yeah.
So
in theory, it should be easier,
should
but
be a
there's
little bit
bigger
easier.
inclines on this, so it's all relative. But
and you're running faster, so it just doesn't feel nice anyway.
yeah, I think where we're going with it is you're just trying to level up and always compete against yourself. But if you've got other people who are around similar levels and they can nudge you up and give you a little bit of extra percentage. So for me, Nathan is that and vice versa. I think it's good to have a bit of healthy competition because it keeps you honest and it keeps you accountable.
And if he's
definitely I definitely haven't run as much as him. So if he doesn't beat me, we're going to have a few serious questions. But it's because his V02 Max isn't as high as mine.
Apparently not.
It's a touchy subject, that is.
But he has got the alpha flies.
He has, yeah.
That's
by 10.
I might turn up with them on and just see what happens.
Get that, that's it.
Is that not fall out?
I'm happy. Like,
You'll look at me feet and go,
I'll just go in the hurt locker, me, and stay there.
Yeah, to be fair, the last half I was in the hurt locker, by the way, and what I'm looking for like an adaptation standpoint on this one, can't remember how long I spent in the red.
Yeah, I spent the whole thing in the red.
Yeah, like the last half marathon I was in the hurt locker, I was in the red pushing that pace, but like I've got quite a high ceiling where I can seem to stay in the red and my breathing's not too difficult. What I want this time, or what would be nice, is to kind of run quicker, but maybe be in that threshold, which would show that my zone 2 work is...
Yeah, it's having a knock-on effect.
So like I'd like it to cost less tax, but be able to run quicker, and then if that's the case on Sunday and I finish and I look and it feels better, feels easier, that's where we know like that the programme stuff is actually having that crossover, which is exactly what we're after. We're trying to get that specific adaptation and get better. And enjoy ourselves doing it.
As you said, it's not always time. There's more variables.
That's it,
so if your time's exactly the same, but you feel comfortable after it, and you're like, that was quite easy.
I'd be happy with that.
You go, do you know what? Take that win. That's a win. That's a massive win. Because
just doing it's a win. Completely it's a win.
Oh, of course, yeah. And as you're saying there, just doing it's a win. We've all started. Like everyone's had to start from somewhere. So if you are just going and starting your first 5k, 10k, and that, don't worry about it. Don't worry about going, right, okay, I can't do a 5k in half an hour. Yeah. So what?
You don't need to like
started. You don't compare yourself to someone else, do you? It's relative.
Everyone started somewhere, and we've all been where you've been.
We had a saying in the army: train hard, fight easy. I apply the same thing to me training, like I was saying to you last night. So like I've looked at me average pace needs to be 4:44, 4:45 for a 1:40 half marathon. So every time I do an interval, I'm doing it 20-30 seconds faster.
Yeah, so 4:44.
So I can become comfortable at my average race pace. Yeah. So like you were saying to you last night, me and Dicko went for a run last Saturday, and we was having a conversation at 4:50 pace, which I've never been able to do, and that's because I'm doing that hard work. When it comes to doing that hard work, I can achieve them intensities because I'm only doing them once a week, and I've earned the right to do that because I'm building my base.
Yeah. With less energy cost.
Exactly.
And it feels easier. Yeah.
So I'm hoping
you're going to come in
on the day, proper nutrition, proper hydration. You get that adrenaline, that buzz on race day, and I'm just going to try and lock in and just. There's a marker on this one, isn't there? There's a 140 marker.
Oh, I'm not sure.
So yeah, they've said on the email we got to depending on where you think you're going to finish, to start near your marker.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start by the 140 marker. I'm just going to try and stay with him.
Yeah.
For as long as possible. Once I get to about 10 miles. If I'm still with him, I'm just gonna, and I feel like I'm gonna put my foot down and try and beat him basically. Yeah.
It's a good way of doing it. Good way of managing your time.
Could get in your head on the day that as well.
Could
yeah. It's tough one. Yeah, tough one. But very interesting. So, I didn't realise there was a marker. So that
one thing, there's a 130 marker and a 140 marker. I think there's a 2-hour marker as well.
What you could do is start with the 130 marker and say to yourself, I don't want to see the 140 marker for the rest of... You're not trying to go past the 130, you're going to stay behind them, but you don't want to see the 140, man. Yeah, that might be a way to do it. That's tough though.
Nothing.
That average pace is it. I think the average pace for a 130 is like 4:30, which I can run at.
Yeah. It's taxing.
But I'd probably only be able to stay there for 5k, I think.
Yeah.
And would you or would you not?
And then I'd burn myself out over the course of the race.
Yeah, you don't want to start there.
I'm going to start off at negative splits, so I'm going to try and I'm going to aim for about a 4:50 pace for the first 5 or 6k, maybe 10k, just so I can get up Upper Parley, because Upper Parley is going to be quite difficult. Yeah. And then from there, I'm going to try and kick on and then hopefully come in around about 140, or if everything goes to plan, I'll take a 139.59.
Nice. Yeah, some nice bits there. So
I think what we'll do for the next one, we'll do it obviously after the half marathon. We'll have a little bit of review on it, see how you feel and stuff like that. See the recovery side of it a little bit more. Like, right, okay, what did you do afterwards? How did you address?
The nutrition, we can touch on nutrition, what we eat before and stuff. It's quite an interesting one.
And then we'll get Matty in for the V02 Max, and we'll go through the full PDF that he sends us over.
And how unfit I am.
And we'll basically get
and Nathan's score.
Expert opinion on everything, and he'll describe everything that shows on the form.
It's a nice set point, definitely.
Yeah.
So let's round it up there.
Yeah,
good episode. Tune in to see when I beat Nathan with the alpha flies on Sunday.
That's fucking heavy.
Yeah. Thanks for watching.
Take it easy.
Cheers, nice one.